And welcome everybody to the PCS Like a Pro show. I'm your host, Megan Harless, and we have a really great episode coming today. We're going to talk with Amy in a moment and talk about her experience PCSing and things that she's learned along the way. The one little DoD update I want to give before we get started here is about the DPS, when the system you have to go when you set up your move, and the help desk. I know a lot of folks have been having some issues lately as for being able to log into DPS, being able to set up accounts. And if you don't know already, the DPS does have a help desk. They are phenomenal people at being able to help walk you through whatever technical issues you may be experiencing, whatever problems you may have. So if you're having those issues or concerns being able to get into DPS, contact the help desk, and we're going to drop the phone number and the email for them here into the comment section, so that way you'll be able to easily call them if you need to. So again, if you're having issues with the DPS help desk, make sure to reach out to, or logging into DPS or any issues with DPS, reach out to the help desk because they can help walk you through a lot of different things. So we're going to jump right into today with our guest here. So Amy, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, my name is Amy Schick, and I've been a military spouse for 27 years. My husband started out as an enlisted Marine, and we got married shortly after I graduated high school. And then he switched over to the Army and has been in the Army now for about 18 years. So we have moved a lot of PCSs. We tend to PCS across the nation a lot, so I don't know if he made someone mad a long time ago, but it's always makes for an interesting adventure when the PCSs are so far away. So yeah, so we're stationed here at JBLM, and based on what we know today, we'll be PCSing to Hohenfels, Germany this summer of 22.
Yay, PCSing summer 2022 cycle. We're in that as well, and I have several friends in that time frame as well, looking forward to figuring out where we're all going to be going and what comes next. So overall, what has been your experience in PCSing during your time as a military family?
So PCSing, as the kids have gotten older, it's gotten a lot more complicated because of school and sports. And when we do PCS, our priority is on the kids' education and then their sport activities, because that's where we really get them plugged in and they thrive. Mm-hmm. So that has been difficult, PCSing to different locations to figure out where are we going to live, and then also continue, good education for the kids, and then also sports. So it is a challenge. This PCS is going to be different, that we will PCS to Germany with just one child instead of three, because we have one that's already in college and then another one that will either be playing hockey for a hockey team or starting college himself. So this one's going to definitely be a little different, because I think it's going to feel like we're doing two separate moves. So it will all work out like always, but we're definitely in uncharted territory with this move.
Yeah, schools are always a very important thing. I know for a lot of families, especially for us, that's one of the first things I look at is what are the school systems around that location like, and how far away do we need to live to be in a better school system or the more sought after type of school system. And especially you now going to Germany with only one, it feels like it's that weird territory of you're used to moving with a whole house full of kids and family pets and everything, and now it's not that. So it's definitely a new experience in that way as well. So when you PCS, so I know you were previously a Marine family, correct? And then you transitioned to being an Army family. So talk to us a little bit about, do you do military movers or do you guys move yourselves?
So when we were young and we didn't have kids, we did move ourselves because we had basically a U-Haul full of stuff. I mean, we didn't even fill a U-Haul. So it was pretty easy. Once Jason commissioned into the Army and we had little ones, that's when we used Army movers or, military movers. For the first, I would say 10 years, up to 2009, we had never filed a claim. Our moves were really pretty seamless. We also still didn't have a lot of stuff. But as the kids have gotten older and we've gotten older, and we've just acquired more things. And so that is where I feel like the moves have gotten more difficult. Just as far as, claims and damage and missing things. But we did do a full Diddy move, which I guess they're called PPMs now, or what is it?
PPMs, personally procured moves.
Yeah. Okay, personally procured moves. So we did that last year. We were kind of forced into it because of COVID. So that was, in a way, it was so much better. And then in a way, it was so much more work. So I guess just kind of pick your battle, really.
Right. So if you weren't going to Germany, if you were staying continental US summer 2022, would you go military movers, or would you opt to do it yourself again?
We would do it ourselves.
Do it yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you when you did it last time, did you guys use like a container company, or was it, you said a
U-Haul
truck?
We used ABF U-Pack. And they were incredibly accommodating. And I bought all new boxes at Lowe's, Walmart.com, Amazon.com. I bought all the supplies and packed up the entire house. But since it was COVID, we didn't have any sports or after school activities. We didn't have anything like that. So since we were all homebound, I started packing in like April for a June move. So it helped having that time to be able to move that way, instead of trying to pack up an entire house. I think we have like 17,000 pounds. So to pack up an entire house in a couple of weeks would be pretty tough, I think.
No, I had a friend, she moved this past summer, actually, Colorado to Kansas, and they used ABF as well and everything. And her husband had made the comment of like, this is so easy. This is so great. Like, it's so much better. And Jessica had to remind her husband, like, yes, honey, because I had 42 days while you were gone at NTC to pack our home. Like, you weren't here for that piece of it, So it's I hear a lot of folks that say, it's great when you can pack yourself because you can do it over time and ensure things are packed properly. And it's not a 3-day rush to get everything boxed and on a truck.
Yeah, I really felt like the packing part was fine. I told my husband, I'll pack everything in this house, besides the kids' bedrooms. We made the kids pack them because they're teenagers. But I said, I'm not going to load anything. Like, I'll pack it, but I'm not loading. So the goodness was that we had our son's hockey team and parents, and they all came over one day with some other Army friends and wrapped up furniture and loaded the entire ABF truck in like the matter of 4 hours. So It was amazing. We only had one thing get damaged, and it was actually my husband's fault. And it's kind of funny because it's our nightstand. He actually dropped it, and the whole top of it got scratched. We're still using it, of course. Yeah. So I teased him about it, like, wow, that's a pretty big scratch. And it's pretty bad. But that furniture has also been moved like 12 times over the past 17 years. So I kind of feel like it's just adding character at this point. At some point, we'll get rid of it.
Right. And it makes a good story now. Like, remember, honey, that one time, like, and now if you ever do another PPM, and he's carrying that, you can be like, oh, watch out, honey, like, don't drop it again. Or do you need some help carrying that? Let me help you so we don't drop it. So I feel like there's going to be some good story there with that.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I give him a hard time about it all the time. And it's funny because I did a lot of the scheduling of things with like ABF and just the timing of things. And he charted out our drive across the country because we were caravanning with 3 cars because we couldn't get someone to ship my daughter's car. So she had to drive as well, which that was really stressful, having a teen driver drive from North Carolina to Washington. But when we got here to JBLM and the truck or the trailer was being delivered the very next morning, my husband said, "So what time are the guys coming to help us unpack?" And I was like, so a little bit about that. I never could get someone. So my husband and son unpacked a 28-foot trailer and put all the furniture in the house, just the two of them. So I was so impressed. I felt really bad. I really did.
No, don't feel bad. We had a similar situation where we were doing our move from West Virginia to Kansas. So while my husband's deployed, me and our oldest were near home, living near family. And so we had to move everything then back to Kansas. And so like my mom flew in and came to help pack up everything. My mother-in-law watched our oldest because he was just a little baby at the time. And then my father-in-law came to help us load. And then here comes my husband's uncle, because his whole family lived around there. So here comes his uncle to come help load. And his uncle's a local pastor at a church. So he called some church guys to come, and they came and they all loaded up. So then here we arrived to our home in Kansas, and it's me, him, and our infant son. And so like luckily he was able to call a friend who came over, and just the two of them unloaded like this giant Penske truck that my husband had to drive across country. And I would try to help out where I could. And my husband's just like, "You're in the way, honey. Like, just go take care of our son. Like, our plan is we're just going to put everything into this living room, and then me and you can sort it out later." And I was just like, okay. So don't feel bad about that. I think a lot of folks have that same similar experience of where it's just been them, having to unload because something fell through, or they weren't able to get a hold of somebody. So
yeah, no, it definitely was tough. I'm super proud of our son, and just how much work, he put into it. And then the girls and I were inside the house, and we were unpacking boxes and getting things. So it truly was a family move. And I was so thankful that we had able-bodied, strong teenagers because it helped a lot. I mean, obviously it was during a pandemic, and it was hard to really get a lot of help outside, hired help. So, so yeah, that was difficult, but there were certain things about that move that just went so smooth because we were in charge of it. It was our timing. ABF and UPAC are super flexible with the dates and the times. Now, the one goodness that we had that it sounds like you didn't was that there was someone else that drove the trailer across the United States, where it sounds like your husband drove the truck.
So this was back in like 2000. What year was that? 2008. Like before the container companies and the trailer companies became a big thing. I think Pods was just coming onto the market kind of deal at that time. So we had like a 26-foot Penske truck that my husband drove from West Virginia to Kansas to Fort Riley. And that's the reason why he is so against doing PPMs, doing bidding moves. He remembers that experience, trying to find a gas station that was big enough for the Penske truck that had diesel to fill it up. In these little towns that we ended up driving through. And so that kind of broke him on doing PPMs. I always talk about we need to plan for one for next year because, the driver shortage, the logistical supply chain issues that we're having right now. I'm like, we should really plan to do this. And he's just like, no, we will not, not at all. And trying to get him to understand, you don't have to drive the truck anymore, honey. There are people to do that. Like we can have
traumatized enough. Yeah,
we can have a container dropped on the driveway. They will drop a trailer in the front yard. Like you don't have to drive the truck anymore. And he's just like, nope, we're good. We don't need to do that anymore.
No, that definitely, talk about being a jack of all trades, right? Also driving the truck. I feel like that would be very stressful. So with us going to Germany and hearing about all the delays in household goods, I'm actually mulling around the idea of leaving our furnishings here and having a furnished rental here and taking just our personal belongings to Germany with us. Because I don't know. I mean, we could be waiting 6 months. And if we're only going to be there for 2 years and we have to have everything packed up out of Germany and on its way back to the States 2 months before we come back, we may only have our household goods for a year and a half, maybe. So Jason is not sold on that idea yet. But I've always wanted to have a furnished short-term rental. And I think leaving our daughter here for school, having some place that is like home, that if she needed to, stay at our house, she could. So I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes. I've been mulling around that idea because you do have government leased furniture in Germany, and then we could just acquire other things from military families that are moving.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it gives you the ability too, that when you go over there, you're not stuck in trying to figure out your housing of like, you don't have to figure out what furniture you're taking or maybe getting rid of or selling or storing in non-temp storage kind of deal. And then you're not, in your house trying to figure out where things go. And it gives you that ability to where, we could go for a smaller house because we don't have to worry about this, 12-seater sectional or whatever it may be that you have. It gives you that mobility to kind of be flexible in that. So no, I think it's definitely a great idea. Jason, if you're watching, full furnished rental is the way to go. Your wife is onto something. Just do what she says. It's all good.
Well, I mean, I still need to do some research on it, but then the flip side of it, long-term thinking is, okay, well, when we come back to the States, we're not going to move back to JBLM most likely. So, what do we do with this home and all of our furnishings in a house? So it's logistically, it could be a gigantic mess, or it could end up being, the best decision we ever made. So I'll have to let you know in a couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely want to know how that goes. So when you know that you're going to be PCSing, how do you prepare for it? Like, how do you mentally prepare for it? How do you prepare your kids? Are there any must-do things that you have in your family to help prepare for a PCS?
So something that I've learned from my kids was that they want to be involved in the process, and they don't want to hear about things that we're planning or things that we're thinking about. They don't want to be the last to hear about it. So, and they're teenagers. So we've learned to start them in the process very early. So when Jason was doing the marketplace and racking and stacking, future jobs, we were having these conversations, at dinner with the kids of some possibilities, what would be good, what would be not so good, where would they like to go, and so we start just talking about it with our kids and start talking about the possibilities. And that it is coming, right? We are going to be PCSing, so that they can also start like mentally wrapping their heads around it. For our son, I think it's more of like starting the separation process from, his parents, because, we will be in Germany and he may be here in the States, where our daughter that's at college now, she's already gone through that process. So really just talking about it. And then I immediately start purging. Anything that I have not used while we have lived in this house is gone. Like it's gone.
It's a great rule. We use the same one.
Yeah. And we have these buy nothing pages in our neighborhood. And so I post a lot of things on the buy nothing. I do sell some things. And I just kind of start that process early. I actually have already started it. And then we also talk to the kids about like, okay, well, what do you want to keep? What do you not want to keep? And we start going through their things. And we learned with that Diddy move, you do not want to pack anything that you are not, because you're packing up that entire house by yourself. Yeah. So you do want to purge, and we do a lot of purging, and we just get leaner and leaner all the time. And then I also start backing away. Once we get like 3 months out from our move, I start backing away from like community obligations for myself. And then focus on just the kids and transitioning the kids and wrapping up whatever we need for school and sports and like medical, that sort of thing. And then just start unwinding, like our life, which is, I know it sounds kind of strange, but it's almost like you have to start the separation process early. But there's also something really kind of freeing of like detaching yourself from that community, because it's almost like it allows you to focus on what you're going to create for your lifestyle on the other side. So it is a process, and it takes time. It does take time. And I used to be that mom and that spouse that was like 150 miles an hour until the day we left, thinking that that's how I was going to maximize myself. But I was so exhausted that by the time I got there, I didn't have any energy to, or really excitement to get like establish our lives in that next community. So I've learned to start backing away earlier, and just kind of give myself that space and focus on my kids and our move. So it's taken many moves to learn that.
I feel like you get to a point in your life stage where like you get PCSing down to a science. So many months out, we start this, we start that. And I feel like as a military family, at least for us, because we PCS so often, that we're in like this never ending phase of decluttering and clean out and purging. I feel like every couple of months, I'm just like, oh, I don't need this. And we have a good pile happening in our garage right now of stuff that we have cleaned out. So we recently cleaned out the kids' rooms because we got Christmas coming up, but also because we're PCSing next time. Like, what do we not need that is in your room? And the amount of stuff we pulled out was a little bit shocking for me. And my husband's just like, can we get rid of this? I'm just like, no, we're having a yard sale in the spring and it's going to be fabulous. And you're just going to have to deal with this pile for a few more months.
The yard sales are awesome. I mean, I love them. When we left Alaska, we sold a lot of items. So the garage sales have been really wonderful. And then it's great on the other end because, you can pick up things that, you maybe left at, that you didn't want to take. But then now that you're at that new location, you're like, yeah, I really miss having that like hutch or, that buffet or something, But I think I've also learned to let go of my attachment to things. There's only a few things that I really care about, and it's usually sentimental things, but a bed is a bed, like sheets are sheets, towels are towels. There's certain things. I think the only thing that I'm particular about is my cookware and my kitchen. Like those tools I really care about. But the other things like the decor, I feel like, I can go onto Amazon or I could go to a garage sale and I can kind of, I can change things up, and it feels good. That is one thing that I was talking to a friend about. A lot of our like civilian counterparts, they don't get these like clean slates and these clean transitions. So, I mean, their life can be like Groundhog Day for 7-8 years where they never move, their house never changes, their life cycle never changes. Where for us, we get all these great little clean starts. And I kind of like it. It kind of breaks up the monotony, I think, of life.
It does. It absolutely does. And then just being able to live in different homes. We have plans at some point we're going to build our dream retirement home. And throughout the years, I've picked up little things here and there of like, our house needs to have this and our house needs to have that. Things that I wouldn't have otherwise thought of looking through pictures online type of deal, but getting to experience and being like, oh, this makes such a huge difference. Like, yes, add this to our house list for when we retire.
Yeah. And isn't it so funny how living in so many different homes, I just feel like I have like an appreciation for what feels like home. And I have loved every single home for different reasons. And I do get attached to our homes. And then once I leave, that attachment goes away. But some homes I've been more attached to than others. And I think it depends on what our life was like there at, that given time and that given season in our life.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you've lived at many different places, and you've had the experience between Marine Corps bases and now Army bases. So what has been your favorite duty station that you've been at?
I think my favorite duty station was Alaska, which I'm kind of shocked that, I'm saying that, because when my husband came home with an RFO to Fort Wainwright, Alaska, I was like, no, I'm not going. like there's no way. I'm from California. I live in flip-flops in Georgia. Like, I am not going to Alaska. But the freedom that we had there, and the experience that our children had, and the friends that we made, it really was amazing. And we lived right on the installation. And it was that quintessential Army experience of the kids, playing in the neighborhood all day long, not even knowing where they are half the time, and having such close friends. And, we didn't have a deployment, which was amazing. So I felt like my husband really got to participate in our life together. So yeah, that truly was, and it's like living on another planet, right? Yeah. I mean, when the sun doesn't go down and it's like 10 o'clock in the summertime, you're like, oh, I should make dinner. It's 10 o'clock. Where are the kids? They're out playing, So, there was a certain amount of freedom, and also security, because we lived on the installation. There's a certain, like, our door was never locked. I mean, half the time random kids would just walk into the house. Oh, where's Riley? Where's Brady? So it was awesome. It was really, really awesome. And even despite being scared of the weather and the snow and the cold, it's a lot of fun when you live in it, and you live in a place that's prepared for it.
Right. Yeah. Like it's different when it snows, 2 inches in Alaska versus when it snows 2 inches in Atlanta, Georgia, and how things are handled, and how one shuts down and one's like, oh, this is a dusting, it's nothing. But I've heard very similar from a lot of folks that have been stationed in Alaska that it was, one of their favorite locations, and they loved what it had to offer, and they would go back in a heartbeat if they could. So on the flip side, is there a duty station that you did not enjoy?
So yes. And it's actually, we were stationed at MacDill Air Force Base, in Tampa, Florida. And we just had a really rough start. We went from Alaska, having this quintessential Army experience, to living in a very urban environment. So my kids didn't feel safe. It was definitely a culture shock for our kids. But then it was also the way my husband worked at CENTCOM. So it's very different than any other Army experience. So our kids would ride their bikes to Jason's work and take him lunch, at like different duty stations. But in Tampa, you can't even take your cell phone into the building with you, or you can, but it's put in like this secured locker. Families aren't allowed to go into the building. It's completely secured. So it felt like he was a civilian, right? When he traveled, he didn't travel in his Army uniform. He didn't go to work in his Army uniform. It was different. I did have a Marine Corps spouse that became like my very best friend, which was amazing. And there were military families around us, but we had mostly civilian friends, which was really tough, because I really was very, I don't want to say guarded, but I didn't want to like fully establish some of these civilian relationships, because I knew that we were going to be moving. So if we were retiring there, I would have been all in.
Right.
We also had a really tough situation with the schools. Our daughter was a freshman in high school. Our son was entering 7th grade, and the schools were just not what we thought they were. And so we had to pivot and pull our kids out of schools, mid-year, and put them into different schools. So while I love Tampa as a city, and I love living there, and I love like our hockey family that was there, and it's such a beautiful area, I did not like our life there, if that makes sense.
It does.
I mean, there were so many things. that I really liked. But as
Mhm.
far as like a duty station, I didn't like it.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. You can love a location, but not love the experience that it gave you. And so it makes
Yes.
total sense. So
Yeah. No, yeah.
have you ever been sent to a place that you really didn't want to go? It was like, why are we going there? I don't want to go there. Like the Army is punishing me, the military is punishing me, but then you ended up enjoying it.
Absolutely. And that's Fort Polk, Louisiana. I did
Which is
not.
where everybody's just like, that's so, like Polk and Irwin. It's like, if you get those, it's like this must be punishment for something. Like, why? Why would they send us there?
No,
So, yeah.
it was Jason was at the career course when we got the assignment to Fort Polk. And other spouses were saying, "Oh, just ask someone to trade." And I thought, who's going to trade? Like, who would trade to go to Fort Polk? But come to find out, a lot of families that are from Texas want to go to Fort Polk because then they're close to family, right, in East Texas.
Yeah.
I did not want to go. But once we got there, it took us a little while to get settled in. But within 6 months of moving there, like everything just kind of clicked for us there. And it was like a fast and furious time because Jason did his company command time there and we had a deployment. But we had the best command and we had the best house and the best schools and the best church and the best sports teams for our kids. So I just felt like even though we were at Fort Polk, we had the best of everything. So, and I felt like I turned into this defender of Fort Polk, and I felt like I turned into this unofficial encourager that like anyone that was going to Fort Polk, like I was going to convince you that this was going to be the best time of your life.
That's awesome though.
So I did. We absolutely loved it there. And but when you first drive up to it, it's rural Louisiana. So it's just, again, a little bit of an adjustment, again, another cultural adjustment. But the thing that I did learn about Fort Polk was that you really need to assimilate into your communities because these communities are established cultures that thrive and survive with or without the Army. So I learned early on, that was the move that I learned. You really need to assimilate into a community and not show up, and say, okay, well, we're a military family, so we do things a certain way. So I feel like the more you learn to assimilate into communities, the more you get out of it, and the more welcoming people are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's so great to hear about Fort Polk because there's always these locations where just like, like we never want to go there. That's going to be the worst place in the world. And then to hear somebody that's not from there and has loved it so much, because I have a friend that they're actually from DeRidder. They're from the Fort Polk area and everything. And so like here she was, their family was trying to get orders to Fort Polk. Fort Polk was on their list of possibilities. They requested Fort Polk. Like nobody requests Fort Polk unless it's from there. And so it was like, you thought it would be a shoo-in. Like, of course we're going to get Fort Polk. Like nobody requests it. And they got sent on a rotation to Korea instead. And then like somebody that had like requested, some other location like got sent to Fort Polk. And here they were like trying to trade and everything. Cause he's like, I'll go do a rotation to Korea. Like that doesn't bother me. I just don't want to go to Fort Polk. And, the other family's like, we want to go, like our family is there, and like HRC would not let them trade for whatever reason.
I hate that. I love it when things work out and people are able to trade. I mean, I think that's pretty awesome, but it just stinks when you want something so bad and it just seems like it would be so easy. Can't we just trade them out?
Yeah, and it's just like, and it's Fort Polk, like nobody requests Fort Polk and we are requesting it. Like, why can we not get the location that nobody else wants? Like, but it's really great to hear somebody that is not from a location really love a location that usually gets a bad rap for not being the best of the possibilities. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think that why Fort Polk gets a bad reputation, I think, is because a lot of people will go there and they'll train, right, at JRTC, but they don't actually live there. And so I learned early on when when I would ask questions about Fort Polk, or Fort Polk would get brought up and someone would have a very strong negative opinion about it, I would then ask, did you live there or did you just train there? And then if they just trained there, then I did not count their opinion at all. Because training there is completely different than living there.
Yeah.
And so and you're in a really great spot in the United States because you can do so much traveling. We used to go to Houston all the time, and you're actually pretty close to a lot of the South. So yeah, I mean, we did it. It took a little time to get used to it, but once we did, it truly is the people, right? Just like at any duty station, it's the people that you're surrounded with really can make or break a duty station, for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. So one of the last things I want to end with today is, you've PCS many times, you've done it many different ways between a PPM, military movers. So what is something that you wish you would have known in your younger military days about PCSing? Any lessons that you've learned that you want to pass on to somebody else that is preparing for one of their first few PCSs?
Yeah, so I actually have two pieces of advice, and one is like a detailed piece of advice. The next one is more of a broad brushstrokes. I learned early on that when you have movers in your house, you can't just sit down passively and expect for them to pack things up and do things the right way. You have to actively be engaged in their business, and you need to, hey, here's Ziploc bags for all my bolts, right? For this desk, I want them taped to the bottom of the desk, right? Like, they will try to do things the easiest way possible for them. But having all of your bolts and in baggies in one parts box, that doesn't work for me. And so while they're there in your home, you need to actively be engaging them, watching them, and making sure that they are packing things the way you want things packed. And it's not to be breathing down their neck or to be rude, but it's to be actively engaged in the packing process. If you want something wrapped with blankets, you tell them, I want this wrapped with blankets. I have these certain amount of electronics that you're going to pack, and together we are going to plug them in to show that they are working, so that on the paperwork you put that they are in proper working order. It's those things make a huge difference. And it's maybe because I have teenagers that, like, I know that if you aren't engaged and following up, they're going to do the dishes in like the easiest way possible, right? The dishwasher's going to be a gigantic mess. They're not going to rinse things off properly. They're not going to wipe off the counters. The movers are kind of like teenagers, right? Unless you follow up and tell them exactly what you want, you're going to get like their version of what is best. So staying actively engaged, I think, is definitely, and not being distracted that day.
Yes.
Those days. The more general advice that I've learned is to just relax your expectations. It is okay if the kids eat toast with just peanut butter on it. It is okay if they eat green beans out of a can. This is not supposed to be a Pinterest-worthy event in your life. Just get through it and, relax some of those expectations on yourself, and ask for help. Really ask for help. If you need help from a neighbor watching your kids, or you want, another person in the house with you while you do have, movers in the house and you're by yourself, ask someone to come be with you. Like, this is the time to really ask for help. So those are the things that I've learned over the years.
Yeah. And that last one, asking for help, I will say, as military spouses, we all know we are the worst people to ask for help. We think we can do it all. So if you have a friend, if you have a neighbor and you know they're PCSing, you see that big truck or whatever pull up, go over and ask them. Do you need anything? Do you need another set of eyes? Do you need another set of hands? Because when it's offered, they're more likely to take it. A lot of times to do things on our own, or just show up and be like, hey, I'm here with you while we're doing this. Which bedroom do you want me to go supervise today?
Yes.
It's so much better than, waiting to ask for help, because we suck at it. We're horrible at it. We think
Oh
we
my
can do
gosh.
it
And
all.
we're the first to offer help, and we are like the last to ask for it. But this is the way I've also learned throughout the years in the Army, is that I feel much better about asking for help if I've already offered help. So it doesn't even mean that I've offered help to that person, but that I've offered help to somebody else. And then once you realize that, like, you've helped someone and what that meant for them, when you're asking for help, you're giving someone an opportunity to save your day the way that someone saved yours, right? So and that is, it's so tough, and it's a stigma that I really want the younger spouses, because that's also how friendships are formed, right? It's like, hey, like one of my very best friends, I met her at a park when we first got to JBLM, and we were staying in this apartment while our house was finished being built, and I needed to borrow her vacuum. And I just said, like, oh, well, where can I rent a vacuum? And she was like, you can borrow mine. Right. And then it's like, I went over to her house, borrowed the vacuum, dropped it back off. The kids played, we chatted. And then, like, a really amazing friendship, was formed by borrowing a vacuum. Right. So I feel like, and then, like you said, offering, even if it's the littlest thing, like, hey, can I bring some drinks by? Or, can I, call, take numbers? Or do you want me to direct people where to go while you call off numbers? That's the other thing. Having two people when they are unloading all of your stuff, one person just to have the inventory sheets to check off numbers, and then just a person to tell people where to put things, I feel like is huge, because trying to be one person and navigating both of those is tough. It is really tough. So, and use those Facebook pages to reach out to people. It's amazing how many spouses I see on Facebook saying, we just moved here and I need X. And I can't tell you how many people that are, again, complete strangers, but they're military spouses, are like, oh, I've got that. I can help you with that. Or I've got this. I can help. It's amazing, right? I mean, when people, I think, want people to ask them to help too. I mean, I like it when people ask me to help them,
It's one of those things that reminds me, where did I learn this at? It was one of our duty stations. That is one of those things of, every need within our group could be solved or met by somebody in our group. And so we had this thing where we had this board, and we wrote down, we put our name on one side, and then like on a Post-it note type deal, and we wrote down like what our need was. And like somebody needed a birthday cake. Somebody needed like some puppy pads because they were adopting a puppy type deal. And we put them on the board. And then like we all went and read the things. And there was somebody that's just like, well, I have a bakery on the side. Like I bake things for my friends. Like I can totally bake you a really nice birthday cake. And somebody else is like, our older dog recently passed away, and we have all these, puppy pads because we're an older dog. Like we can donate them to you. Like we're just going to, put them out somewhere. And so like every need was able to be met by somebody within the group. And so it's within our own community, our military community, our spouse community, our neighborhoods on and off post, that, we all have needs that can be met by somebody else. And so learning how to not be afraid to ask for help, and learning how to, be willing to say, hey, what do you need? What can I do for you? Like, you just don't know the kind of impact you're going to make somebody's day, make it easier for them by just saying, hey, what can I do for you? Like, you need me to take your dog on a walk while they finish loading. Like, I can do that. You need me to like watch your kids for so long. Like, I can do that. Like, they're loading and your baby's in the back bedroom. Like, I can go stand by the door and listen in case they wake up, for whatever it is. But just being able to reach out for help and just being able to offer it. Just go show up. Again, we suck at asking for help. Somebody that's moving in or moving out, just go show up and say, what do you need? What can I help you with? And it makes such a huge difference for them.
It does make a huge difference. And that's how I've met a lot of my friends that have moved into the neighborhood. Is there's a moving truck. And so I just like, hey, there's a moving truck. Hi, I'm Amy. Just wanted to stop by. This is where I live. Can I help with anything? Or, and it's just it's I know it sounds, like it's not that big of a deal, but it really is. There's something just so comforting about someone popping in and saying, "Hi, I live down the street from you. I just wanted to say welcome." I mean, obviously it's but you don't have to do it formally, right? But just offering to help. And then also before the move, before you move, when you have friends that are established, that is definitely the time to say, "Hey, I may need some help with X. Do you think you would be available to me?" And then they can say yes or no. But asking early on, what that does is it prevents you from getting into that crisis mode, right? Where you're like, "Oh my gosh, I've got an inspection here, but I've got a kid that needs to go to a hockey game. I can't be both places at once," right? Like, then you get yourself all stressed out. And it's like, if you just start asking for help, then it's kind of like, then you prevent yourself from getting into that crisis mode, right? Of like, I have to be 3 different places and I just can't be.
Right. And we know life happens, and sometimes you don't know you have to be there until and that happens being able to set those expectation management, the time management of knowing and being able to try to avoid Murphy before Murphy happens makes such a big difference in life as well.
It does. Yeah. The other thing that I've really learned throughout this process is there's a lot of growth, right, in PCSing and moving, and each move is so different. So even though you're confident that, like, okay, well, we've got plan A, B, C, and D, you may end up on plan F, and you may even turn around and go, "Okay, well, how did we even end up here?" But there's always so much growth. So if you look at the process of, there's going to be some challenges, there's going to be some frustrations, but on the back end of this, like, we're learning to be more flexible. We're learning to be more resourceful. We're figuring things out. And I feel like there's a certain confidence at the end, because it is, when you think about it, it's a gigantic project, right? And when you're done with that project and like everything's up on the walls and the bedrooms are set up, it's kind of like, all right, that was a success. So I think if you kind of look at it that way, that, this is just another large life project, and, you're going to get through it, and, you're going to learn something along the way. So,
yeah, absolutely. And my favorite is that when those unexpected things happen, it may be a horrible thing in the moment. We may hate it. It may throw off our plans. Well, let me tell you, everything makes for a great story later. Where you are 3 months past it and you can finally laugh at whatever it was that happened. It makes for a great story later. So when you meet new friends and you start talking PCS stories and PCS experience, you'd be like, "Remember that one time when we moved from here to there?" And everything makes for a great story later. So you just got to learn how to, roll with the punches, take it as it comes, and then just understand it's going to be a really great story later at your next duty station.
Oh, isn't it? I mean, I feel like some of our best stories are from PCS moves. Really. This last move from North Carolina to Washington was during the pandemic. We couldn't get a auto shipper to ship our daughter's car, and she had just turned 18. She was graduating from high school. The most she had ever driven was like 2 hours to the beach with her girlfriends. And now she was going to drive across the entire United States from North Carolina to Washington in 8 days. Because of the pandemic, the Army only gave us 8 days. And I, of course, in my mind, I was like, this is not going to happen. I mean, I even thought about just trading in my Sequoia, and just because I thought there's no way she's going to be able to drive across the United States. She did. She made it. She had a couple meltdowns. Which is to be expected, right? At 18 years old, driving 8 hours a day for 8 days. But the confidence that she had at the end of this arduous journey of driving even though it was messy and she had some meltdowns. And at one point she was in a Burger King parking lot. It was pouring down rain. And she's like, I just can't do it anymore. I just can't do it. And she's crying and it's raining. And we have like an hour and a half left to drive to get to that destination that night. And my husband was not helping, right? He was just like, suck it up, buttercup. And I was just like, no, I got into the car. I calmed her down. I was like, okay, let's go through the drive-through. Let's get you, a Diet Coke, get you some energy. And we've got an hour and a half. And once we get to the hotel, you can lock yourself in a room and just chill out, watch TV, get on Instagram, call a friend, whatever. But it was tough. But the confidence now that she has as a young adult, like, I drove across the United States. I drove across the United States. I mean, so it's amazing to see, like, even get your kids involved in this. Let them do things that you would never think that they were capable of doing, and they'll surprise you. They really will.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So our kids enjoy being involved, especially now that they're older. When they were little, it always felt like they were in the way. But as they've gotten bigger, we've given them little jobs here and there is what they're responsible for doing. And it's been fun to see them, kind of grow and bloom in those areas and to really, like step in and want to take on more when they know it's time to PCSing. I remember my daughter went from her job, because she's my youngest, her job at first was she would unpack our magnets and she would put our magnets back on our fridge. That's what she could do. She could help with our silverware, put our silverware back in the drawer kind of thing. And now she's we do some pre-packing type of stuff. So like she helps put all her stuffed animals now into trash bags, and she helps put all her little tiny toys into Ziploc bags. It has more of a bigger role in it. And so because she's seen what we've done in the past and she's been a part of the process. And so just seeing her take on more has really been just a fun thing to see and to watch as a parent.
Isn't it? I mean, and it gives them something to do. They really just want something to do. They want to be a part of it. We always did little things like that. Like we had the kids pull the stickers off the furniture, or to break down the boxes, or to, I mean, you name it. I mean, we would just give them little things. And it's just kind of funny now to see how they're older and they're teens. One, how much we actually rely on them now, right? But then our oldest daughter, who's in college, when we've been talking about this PCS to Germany, she wants to come with us because it will be over the summertime, and she wants to spend that time in Germany before school starts again. But it's funny because you would think that she would say, nope, I don't want anything to do with this process. And instead she's like, oh yeah, like she wants to like be part of the process. And I thought, oh, you're just a glutton for punishment, right? But I think because they have, I mean, it has been part of their life. And it also teaches them that like everyone can contribute, right? Everyone can contribute. Everyone has a role. And it's just, I mean, I think it's just a great family bonding experience.
No, it definitely is. Some of our, and talking with my kids, like some of their favorite memories are those times when we're PCSing. They'll always be like, remember when we had like half of our house in that tiny hotel room, and like all of us kids shared a bed, and we had like our dog and our 2 cats in like this little tiny like hotel room, because we didn't know better at the time or whatever it was. And it's some of their best moments, their best memories to think about now as we sit around the dinner table and talk about things. And remember that one time our cat locked us out of the car because we left our car running while
my gosh.
It was like my husband was standing outside the car and stretched his leg. The rest of us were running in and out to a travel stop to use the bathroom and grab a drink. And then we came back out and we were gonna like switch drivers around, and next thing you know, like the car is locked because our cat walked near the window and stepped on the lock button.
Oh my gosh.
What did you do? We stood there for a little while, finally got our cat to come back and walk on the lock button again to unlock it. And then realized that one of us always needs to have the second set of keys in our pocket when we get out of the car. But it's those types of things. It's the good memories that come from them that we don't think in the moment. We're tired, we're stressed, we're exhausted, we're ready to be done. But for our children, it's some of the best times for them.
It really is.
And
it is funny also hearing as the years go on, like to hear their perspective of things and how it changes as well. And then to also hear about their take on that particular situation. Right?
Yeah.
I also think that that's just really funny. We do talk about moves. We talk about moves a lot more than I think we talk about deployments. I'm a much better PCS Army spouse than I am a deployment Army spouse. And I mean, and there are some spouses that are awesome deployment spouses and awesome PCS spouses, and those are like a special breed, like all to themselves.
They are.
So I do much better PCSing than I do deployments, that's for sure. But it is funny to hear the kids' perspectives on things, you know, and then also the way they over dramatize some things, or like when they were little, they would build forts, right, out of the boxes as we were unpacking things. And then the way they would describe these forts, like they were 3 stories and they were across the entire backyard. And it was like, that was like 4 boxes. So
it's the world.
Yeah, but it was like such a big deal to them at the time, you know, so it is. And I feel like even in life, you know, these, now I do have extroverted kids, so I think it's probably easier for extroverted kids. And as they get older, it does get harder. But I feel like, you know, our children, you know, experiencing so many subcultures within America, right? Because it is so different in each area. And then learning how to assimilate, but then also be true to yourself. I feel like you know, that's what it takes to be part of a community and to actually belong and not just fit in. And so, and to appreciate what you have at that, you know, in that community at that time, because you may not always have that at the next community, or you may have something even better, you know, but to just really enjoy where they are presently and to make the best of it. You know, and I think part of it is because they've got limited time. They've learned, I'm going to make the best of this hockey team because I know I only have 2 years here, or, you know, or whatever. I think they've learned to live in the present, which I think is super important. You know, instead of dwelling on the past or just always focused on the future, you kind of have to, like, you know, kind of live in all 3, you know. So
yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Our kids are such amazing creatures with how they are able to adapt from one location to another. And Amy, I've had such a great time talking with you today. It's been so fun being able to hear your stories, hear your experiences, and get some perspective, because we all experience PCSing differently. We all may be moving from North Carolina to Washington, but we all experience that same move differently. And so being able to hear your perspective and your experiences has just been really fun today. So thank you for that. I definitely want to have you back on again. Maybe after your move to Germany, you can tell us about those fun experiences of your husband not dropping nightstands. How your
children will not even make it to Germany. I mean, it may end up, you know,
surprise orders. We enjoy surprise orders. We've had that happen too. So, but no, thank you for your time today. It's been great. Everybody else watching, please join us again next week. We're going to talk about gifts you can get your kids to help prepare for if you're going to be traveling or PCSing, because we all feel like we know we're PCSing. We feel like, what can we get them that will be useful down the road? And so we're going to be talking about those types of gifts that you can plan for your kids for the upcoming holiday season. So that's all we've got today. And until next week, y'all have a good one.
Thank you, Megan.